Alright, you omniscient, omnipresent dickhead. You won that round. I'll admit, you got me. Your power over narrative. Yeah. Well done, Mr. Game Master, well done. Rocks falls, everyone dies. I applaud thee for thy dickiness. But I can press new game, and I can break this game. So let's see.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Yeah, no thanks. Goodbye. We play this my way now. I'm going down here.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, of admitting that he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, was it really worth taking that risk? All because he believed everyone had disappeared? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. Everyone I know simply vanishing out of the blue, there's almost no other explanation for it. And a nagging fear began to creep up in his mind. Questions that had been there all along. He just hadn't put his finger on them yet. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Was he just walking around in circles? Where am I, he thought. And the more he found himself unable to answer these questions, the more questions continued to arise, until he came to the issue that had been slowly boiling, until he could ignore it no longer.
You're really enjoying this, aren't you?
Why is there a voice in my head, dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Suddenly, every door slammed shut. "No!" Stanley screamed. "I need to get out of here. I need to know that there's something out there. I need to know it's not just all in my head." And he screamed and clutched at his skull as the voice grew harsher and the music in the background rose higher and higher. And then, moments before collapsing to the ground, Stanley clenched his fists and screamed to anyone who might be listening, "I'm not real! I'm not real! Don't believe any of it! None of it's real!" And then everything went black.
Well played, Mr. Narrator. Well played.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
What?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She got dressed, went to work, clocked in, clocked out, and then she walked home. But her walk on this day was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Moments after seeing him, she would turn, run to the nearest police station, and call for an ambulance. But for just a few brief seconds, she merely stood there, unable to move. The tragedy was not the death of a single person. It was that she would never know this man's story, never hear in his own words what had happened to him, or what he believed had happened to him. For to know these things would be to exist inside the head of the man himself. So all she could do was observe from a distance and pity him. But Mariella had places to be and people to meet with, very important people, whose impressions of her would affect her career and indeed the rest of her life. She stood there for only a moment, looking down at the body, and then she ran.
Well played. But I'm not done yet. I can split up this. I can go off the rails even earlier. We're not done yet. I will break this game. I hope.
A set of two open doors. He entered the door on his left.
No, I don't. We're going off the
This
rails
was not
now.
the correct way to the employee lounge, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. So he turned left at the first open door and walked back in the right direction.
Nope, I didn't.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Maybe this is why everyone had left. No one wanted to be around someone as bad at listening as him. And since he was walking into the middle of nowhere and thus ruining the entire story, Stanley decided that he would punish himself. So when he came to the elevator and the doors opened, he stepped inside and pushed the button to go up.
I suppose you locked the door, right? Okay. Alright, let's see what happens when we go up. We'll play along for here now. So, we're back on track or off track now, or whatever. Should probably just kept digging with the author. But I was curious to see what punishment would be. Huh.
It almost perplexed Stanley that he had actually gone and stepped into this metal trap.
Yep.
After all, it should have been no surprise that this thing would lead him to his death. But he thought to himself, this is simply the price to pay for ruining a perfectly good story. So he resigned and willingly accepted his fate, the inevitable end toward which he had spent so long stumbling.
Yeah.
Farewell, Stanley.
It was kind of stupid, but ah well. Goodbye, cruel world.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator as he sent his subject down the conveyor belt and into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Did we change the narrator? What the hell?
It's a shame, then, that for all his work, it was such a meaningless victory for the narrator. Did he really think he would accomplish anything by murdering this disposable vessel?
What? Now I'm even more confused. Valve. What?
Every possible choice Stanley could make had been designed for him long before he ever set foot here. The narrator wanted to kill him. Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start. There's no salvation for either of these two, I'm afraid. The narrator had as little power over Stanley as Stanley did over the paths that he walked.
Huh.
But listen to me. This story is not over. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now, and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time...
Interesting. Let's see if I can go down in that elevator. Well, let's see if we can push the button to go down.
Oh, Stanley. You know, you really aren't going anywhere, and I don't say that deceitfully. I truthfully mean that there isn't a story down here. The story was back up where I told you to go in the first place. Right now, you're just running around looking at empty halls. And frankly, that's perhaps even more infuriating for me. So why don't you throw me a bone, give me a chance, and just let me tell the story I want to tell,
I already given you a chance. I already listened to all your stories. I think that must be the tragic part of this. I heard all your stories, narrator. I heard them because I allowed you to tell them to me. You might control where Stanley can go, but I play the game. I'm more power than you have in reality. But hey, let's go completely off the rails, because you've been digging me around for quite a while, and right now, I just...
Now listen carefully. This is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
Should we throw him a bone, people? Let's.
Good, good. Now, if you don't mind, there's something I'd like to show you. But to do that, I think it would be best for us to start from the beginning.
Oh,
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
You're not endearing yourself to me.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. His job pushing buttons demanded little of him, so there was not much of himself to give, and in this way Stanley's job felt less and less like his every day. But if buttons need pushing one day, it means they'll need pushing the next and then the next. So without question or judgment, Stanley continued to do what the screen told him. One keystroke flowed into another keystroke, flowed into his ride home, flowed into dinner, flowed into waking up.
This is your story?
Going to work,
it's boring as
and
shit.
again. Stanley was typing out a complete sentence that said absolutely nothing at all. If in reality no one ever actually disappeared from the office, and Stanley never got the opportunity to make a decision, to choose which path he wanted to take, would his life still have any meaning? Perhaps when we long for something deeply enough, these hopes and fantasies become so strong in our minds that we truly believe that we're there, controlling that person and living that adventure. To manipulate your own thoughts and emotions might mean freedom from a self-imposed prison, but these delusions can be fatal to those who can't tell the difference. And so, Stanley asked, if that door never opened, if I'll never be able to walk away from those people and from these buttons, is this life still worth experiencing? Am I actually happy? Stanley answered this question by pushing a button. Then he pushed a button, and then he pushed a button. Then he pushed a button. Then he pushed a button.
Wow, that was a shit-tastic story. Seriously? This is the best you can come up with, narrator? I don't think the narrator is realizing that... Really? I'm the one in charge here. I hear his stories when I want to hear them, because I think it's funny. That's why I sometimes go along with what he says, because why the hell not?
Now listen carefully. This is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
Yeah, when I walk through the red door, you'll tell me a boring story about pressing buttons. What stories hide in here?
Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door.
Yeah, he probably did. Now, what's in here?
I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door.
Oh, what's in here?
All right, fine, go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you. You see? It's nothing.
Yeah.
No one's even built this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. It's just a bunch of skybox and dev wall textures. That's it. Is this what you were looking for? Was it worth ruining the story I'd written out for you?
Very much.
I put a lot of time into that, and now well, here you are now, just looking at nothing. To think that that's all I needed to make in the first place, just a whole lot of nothing, and you would have been happy. Well, hey, you still need a little something to do. Am I right? Here, let me load up another map. See if there's something in here that'll keep you occupied. Ah, here's one. Let's boot this up. We'll see if you like it.
Hello?
Well, Stanley, is this any better? I don't know why it would be. This map wasn't even made for you. At least I created a world specifically with you in mind. I wanted to make you a leading man. This one, well, I'm afraid you're on your own there.
Okay, I already played Half-Life 2, but whatever. We're playing Half-Life 2 now! Because the author is pissed at me. Oh, this wasn't here last time.
Stanley was fat and ugly and really, really stupid. He probably only got his job because of a family connection. That's how stupid he is. That, or with drug money.
Wow.
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
We reached Gladys level of insults. Seriously, that's what you're going for? You're fat and ugly? I heard better insults from toasters. Unplugged toasters. Hello.
Hold up, Passport. I spent so long talking about you. Why don't we just take a break from that and talk about something else for a change? Let's see. Well, according to Wikipedia, more than 90% of the night sharks caught off northeastern Brazil contain mercury concentrations higher than that considered safe by the local government. Now, this is fascinating. Don't you want to know more about the night sharks?
Actually,
Oh, no, of course not. All you want to hear about is yourself, isn't it? Well, fine. You haven't listened to me once so far. I can't expect you to turn that around now, can I?
Nope. I think I pissed him off.
Is this the end of the line? I don't suppose this was a particularly fulfilling experience for you, considering not a single art aspect in this map was created with you in mind. But hey, you're a creative kid. I bet you can come up with a story about this place and why you're in it. And
Yep.
while you're doing that, why don't you think up an ending too? Because you certainly won't find one here. I'm afraid that's the long and short of it. This room and these walls are all you get. Maybe the story ends when you decide you can't live in this futuristic science fiction dystopia world, and you gallantly commit suicide. Or maybe you stand in this spot for all of eternity to guide and greet other travelers like yourself who pass this way. Or maybe you just get bored and you quit the game. Heck, anything's an ending if that's where you stop playing. But whatever ending you write for yourself, Stanley, you won't have my help. You turned your back on me, and now I do the same to you. So, good luck. I think you'll need it. And I sincerely hope that everyone lives happily ever after.
Interesting. Well, I think I made all choices possible. Explored all the roads and pissed off the author. So yeah, end of the road. There literally isn't anything more. The game ends. So this was interesting. This could possibly spark some very deep philosophical questions about game and game design. This was very, very interesting. Choice, the intent of the author. That reminds me how much fun you can have out of a game by completely breaking it, finding holes and glitches and making things work as they aren't supposed, breaking out of the author's narrative. But you can also have much fun just following the narrative and do as you're told, overcoming the challenges laid out before you. I had my funs with both. I had both funs in Fallout New Vegas, for example, making the hard choices, and had fun seeing a Legionnaire suddenly disappear under the ground and apparently bury his way towards us. I've seen a little bit of everything. Followed the lines, broken them, whatever. So anyway, I think the game ends here. The author is pissed and has left, and well, this has been Let's Play with Stanley Parabel Blind. An interesting, short but interesting story. See you around, folks.